So I want to speak about my Star Wars story. And of course, I'm aging myself, but I wanted to record my first memories of Star Wars. Now, I was very young when Star Wars first came out. I was in North India, I remember. And now we're going back more than 30 years at this point. In India, in those days, a science fiction movie did not really have much traction, in the sense that, remember, we're talking about a time where there was no YouTube, there was no internet, no Instagram, no Google, nothing of that sort. And the only way you could get your entertainment, or at least the American cinema, was going to the movie theater. You just could not really watch it on TV, because cable TV in India came much later after that. So I was very young, and my brother and my cousin, who are a little bit older than me, they were like, oh, this Sunday we're going to go, we had to get up really early and go to the theater because they're going to play this really cool movie. Now, I was very young, so I really did not know what it was, except I remember distinctly the poster. I remember that much. I remember the poster very distinctly. And so Sunday morning came, and we went to the theater, but we were very late and it was sold out. Okay, now let me just go back a little bit. The town that we were living in is in North India. And American cinema, like I said, American cinema does not have a lot of traction. Means a lot of people would not pay money to go to the theater to watch an American film. So a movie like Star Wars would come and play only one show. And it was like every Sunday morning, this particular theater in the city, or town actually, would play an interesting movie, but only one show. That's it. And right after that, the movie will go to the next town, because remember, in those days, we didn't have digital. So the movies were basically these big reels of film, like plastic film. And they would have 20 cans or whatever. They were like canned film, and they would go, and that's how the movie went. Remember, there's no internet and stuff like that. So, and I remember we went early in the morning. I had to get up. This is a Sunday morning, which you really want to sleep in late. So we woke up really early in the morning. I was very grumpy, and we had to walk all the way to the theater. And we went early. I think we went early enough, but it was totally sold out. It was such a disappointment. Now, I remember my brother's face, because he was very disappointed, because he really wanted to see this movie. Now, I was a little bit more younger, so I didn't understand the gravity of that, because I was much younger. So now fast forward a few years. Then my brother and I were studying in a boarding school in southern India. And this school is actually an American school, but it's located in South India, in the Kodaikanal Hills, which is like a hill station, like mountains. It's up there, and it's called KIS, or Kodi International School. Now, the funny thing about the school is still there even now. Now, the funny thing about the school is, when you go to the school, it's like you're going to America. So, when you have the gate, the moment you step this side is actually India. Like, everything is just Indian. And the moment you step past the gate, like the English accents changes, everything changes, everything is very Americanized. I don't know much about the history. I don't want this video to be more about that, because we are talking mostly about Star Wars. But I remember being in the dormitory, and then we had a sleepover, like my cousin, myself, and I think another boy. We were allowed to go and sleep over with some friends in another dormitory. And so we went, and there was this one particular boy. He was Indian, but he was not Indian like from India. He was like Indian, but he lived abroad. And he had the Millennium Falcon. Now remember, I was a very small boy. So the Millennium Falcon to me was like this huge. It was like this little, like a circular spacecraft. I've never seen a spacecraft before, I mean, at least a toy. And one section of it which you could open, and all these toys were inside. There were so many toys. Now, I had totally forgotten about that Star Wars movie that we missed because we did not get a chance to see it. And then we were just, we were looking at the toys, and he had different toys in his room, of course, in his dorm room. And all the kids wanted to go and play, but this particular boy also wanted to go and play. But I was more like, "Oh, can I? I want to play with your toys, and could you tell me that?" Then he started getting into this. "Oh, this is Star Wars and stuff like that." And I was like, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, you don't know Star Wars?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't know anything about Star Wars. I just know the toys that's physically in front of me right now." And he was like, No, this is Darth Vader." These are his stormtroopers. This is the Empire, the Galactic Empire. And these guys on this side, this is Han Solo. This is Princess Leia. That's Chewbacca. And the Millennium Falcon is a spacecraft that belongs to them. And I was like, "Tell me more." I was very intrigued because this was totally new to me. I did not know this. I just did not know anything about it. So he said, "All right, sit down." And he was much older than me, maybe I think 1 grade older than me. I was in the 3rd grade at that time. I remember very distinctly. I was in the 3rd grade. And I think he was in the 4th grade, maybe 5th grade. And he said, "All right, sit down. I'm going to tell you the story." And then he goes into the story of Star Wars. And I was like, wow. That's the first time I was introduced to Lord Vader. I remember him telling me, "You don't call him Darth Vader, that's his name, Darth Vader, but you address him as Lord Vader." That's how I remember him telling me this story. I know it sounds very funny telling you guys now. And he had all the characters. He had the Stormtroopers. He had multiple Stormtroopers. He also had the Snow Troopers from Empire Strikes Back. Of course, he had Yoda. And then he had these 2 robots, droids. And I remember that very distinctly because one was purely white, a short one, and the other one was purely in gold color. And that was C3-PO, and the short one was R2D2. And then many years later, my mom was traveling to Singapore, and she asked me, and what would you like me to buy for you and stuff like that. And I said, "Listen, if you can get me Star Wars, anything Star Wars, I would love it. That would be fantastic." So lo and behold, my mom bought me a lot of Star Wars toys. Now, please remember, in those days, I think Star Wars is not as common as it is today. In those days, if you had somebody in the United States, you could actually ask them, "Please go to some toy shop, buy Star Wars and bring it to me." Otherwise, there's no way you can get it. So my mom, somehow, she said that she went around to many shops, and then she found one particular shop, and there was this Chinese lady. And the Chinese lady said that she had some of the toys, and they were like duplicates. So she was keeping it for her son, but she would sell my mom the duplicates. Like she had like 2 Han Solos or 2 Luke Skywalkers, 2 Princess, like she had, because maybe she had like a toy shop. I kind of like forget about that, the details on that story. And my mom picked up, like I don't know how many figures in total, because I shared it with my cousin. So my cousin picked some, and I got some for myself. But what I do remember getting is the 2 droids which I really wanted, which is right here. This is C3-PO right there. That's C3-PO right there. And this is R2D2 right over there. This is R2D2 right there. And these are the original toys. It's more than 30 years. These are the original toys. Now remember, in those days, we were not doing like collecting toys and collectors. I was very young. So immediately I ripped open the boxes and took all the toys up because I wanted to play with the toys. So that's why I don't have any of the original boxes. I don't think I threw them away. I just kept them one side, but I just really don't know where they are right now. But these are the toys. And I do have this one, which is where C3-PO came in. But if you look at the back side, it's very different, because I ripped it open and then I put a paper so that way I cut the top part so I could slide the figure back in. You know, at that time we never really did collecting toys. We didn't realize the value of keeping the toys in the packaging. You know, we just did not know all that stuff. I just wanted to play. So I have the original case, which doesn't have the whole card, and that's the bag that came with the C3-PO, which is the Empire Strikes Back version. So that way, if you remember Empire Strikes Back, the movie, in Bisman City, C3-PO gets totally dismantled, and Chewbacca finds him in the garbage disposal area and starts putting him together, but only fixes his head or something like that, and then has this bag. So when they were trying to run away from the Empire in Bisman City, C3-PO is actually behind Chewbacca, because Chewbacca is carrying him and running around Bisman City trying to get to the Falcon to escape the Empire. So anyway, and then as my story goes, then later on we were in the city of Calcutta. Like, I left boarding school, and my brother, myself, and my dad were in the city of Calcutta, I think for one night, and catching the train the next morning to go to the hometown. And my dad said, hey, listen, after dinner, if you like, we can all go watch this movie. The Star Wars movie is there, but it's the Empire Strikes Back. And my brother was super excited. I remember my brother just totally jumping off the seat. And I was like, now see, at that time, I knew about Star Wars, right? I knew the story. I knew Lord Vader, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia. I knew the whole thing. But I have never seen the movie. And we went to the theater. And please understand, the theater is really huge. Not like the theaters that you see today when you go to the mall. Those theaters are very, very small. This particular theater could seat at least maybe 3,000 people, because it had the balcony on the top, and then it had a floor down where you could have first class, second class, type of seats, like the expensive ones in the front. Oh, so the expensive ones in the back and the cheap ones in the front, and something like that. And so we were on the top, and I remember this very, very clearly. When we were sitting, and the movie was about to start, like, first they show all they show all the trailers of the movies and upcoming movie trailers, and then they play the movie, right? Now, Empire Strikes Back, if you remember, was released in 70mm film. That basically means the movie was really wide. Like, as a kid, I was much younger, I would sit, and in order to see the movie, I had to turn my head this way to look at the character coming from this side, I mean, the screen was huge, and it was like, wow. And then, of course, that's how I remember watching Empire Strikes Back. So that means I watched Empire Strikes Back, then Return of the Jedi, which came few years later, and only then I saw Star Wars. So it was like, kind of like, it was like out of order. And of course, by the time I already had the toy, so I knew the story, I knew everything about it. And I remember my friends in school totally laughing at me about stuff like this. There was only one friend who really liked it and liked my story. And when I met him many years later, and he was the one who said, oh, you know what, my kids are now so much into Star Wars, and I would tell them the stories that you would tell us when we were in school, in junior high. And so that's my little Star Wars story. And that's, my original C3-PO and R2D2. They look really old, of course, but these are my friends. They have been with me all my life. And of course, I want to shout out and say to my mom, thank you so much for buying my Star Wars toys. These were my friends growing up. They are still my friends today. And no matter where I go, I still have them on my desk, on my table. And it just reminds me of my childhood. So that's my Star Wars story, my little short Star Wars story.